letting go of the need to know. So, and that's been kind of the, yeah, you're in the right place. That's been kind of the lesson this whole week is that, have you ever had that experience?
Yeah, I have that experience all the time.
Like me just asking you a question?
Yeah, well, yeah.
We're on. Hello, Oregon, and hello, everyone else. I hope you guys are still there. We're glad. We were just going to have a very intimate conversation here, and we still will. You just can't hear us.
Yeah, so, lately I've been thinking about, like, during my early days of exploring of spirituality and stuff, and I was listening to, like, you guys remember, like, Deepak Chopra and, like, the tapes and stuff? Well, I was listening to one of those, and I remember him saying that always stuck with me about the wisdom of insecurity. I love that.
Yeah. It's Zen mind, beginner's mind. When we think we know, then we're not teachable. But when we know we don't know, then we're curious, not judgmental. So that's where we are today, kids. So that's what it's going to be. So now you can pray us in.
How the universe delivered exactly what you were going to talk about, not knowing all of that.
It is.
Very funny.
Yeah, I'm laughing. I am laughing. Yeah, there's a wisdom greater than me. There's a wisdom greater than any of us. And
even look, we're live.
We're live.
We had a little bit ago. We didn't know what was going to happen.
And when I walked here this morning, the circuit was out and there was no air conditioning either. So that gave me a great opportunity to start praying early on, like at 8 o'clock when I walked in the door and it was 80 degrees in the building or in this room. So I'm prayed up. Okay. Well, let's get this show on the road.
I'm reading off of a phone. Liz sent me this and I didn't have an opportunity to print it, so bear with me. Her reading comes from Abraham Hicks. If every morning you begin your day by saying, I intend to see you, I expect to see you, no matter who I am, no matter what I'm doing, I intend to see that which I want to see, you will change the momentum of your life experience. And so it is. And so I'd like you to join me in a 3-minute silent meditation. And so we'll just turn it over to Paul here and see what he's got for us.
So it is.
So it is.
In every way, it feels alright in my own soul. Rise up, every way, it feels alright in my own soul. Rise up in every way. It feels alright, my own soul. Rise up every way. It feels alright, my own soul. I rise up every way. Feels alright, my own soul. Rise up every way. Feels alright, my own soul. Rise up every way. It feels alright, my own soul.
Before I want to begin, I just want to say how much I love this community. When I think of people like Terry and Steve, Paul, Kurt, all of you, you know, we turn on a dime because that's kind of the world that we live in. And it's kind of where I want to go today. And so 3 images that I just kind of want you to hold if you can. One will be more difficult than the other 2, I'm thinking. The first image is this. So Joe sent me a video of the expanding universe this week, and it was just, it's, you know, the stuff that is coming out from the Webb telescope is turning everything that we thought we knew about physics kind of on its ear. And it's like so exciting, you know. Candace Pert, who is she is a scientist, I'm not sure what her discipline is, but she says, you know, everything that we say that we know is true is eventually proven wrong. And I love that idea, and you know, and that's the beauty of science. You know, science is not dogmatic in the sense that it insists that something's right. A good scientist is one who says, hey, this is what we used to think, and now we think something differently. And we just move accordingly. So that, I think, is very exciting. So I've been kind of in that whole energy and just enjoying, Joe, I've been just enjoying the heck out of this stuff because it's so interesting. And the other image, harder image to probably imagine is the Wall Street Journal, no, not the Wall Street Journal, the Washington Post, equally as bad. But so there was an article, an opinion in there by a guy who I absolutely adore. His name is George Will. And spoiler alert, there are very few things I agree with on this guy, but I love him. And I have tremendous respect for him because He's a deep thinker. He is an articulate writer. And he challenges assumptions that I have and engages me to simply not stay at the surface about a belief that I may hold, but to look deeper in it. So it's kind of like one of those, you have a friend or a partner who calls you on your stuff because you are going along, or I'm going along, pontificating on something that is, an absolute dictum from my mind or my heart or my whatever, and they say, well, why do you say that? Well, so there's something really kind of important about that. And then the third image, and we're not going to have slides today, but the third image is, you don't have it anyway, the third image is in the tarot. Depending on what deck you use, if you use the Rider-Waite deck, it's the first, it's 0, it's the Fool. That's cool. Or in the Marseille deck, it's the Magician, that's the first card. But I'm going with the Fool, although I'm going to talk about the Magician, is the Fool. Do you guys, you all know the image of the Fool in the tarot? You have that in your head? Okay, we'll get later on this week because we're going to be talking quite a bit about, well, not this week. So, but in all of these things, there's an interesting thing. So what George Will wrote about in his book, or not in his op-ed, is he was commenting on a book that's relevant today. The book was written 50 years ago. It was called The Best and the Brightest. And the premise of the book, written by the author at the time, was talking about how in the Kennedy and Johnson administration, Kennedy specifically, he got the best and the brightest, those right out of the best universities, the Ivy League universities. Their pedigrees were impeccable as far as their learning and their education. And they got into political power, and it was an absolute debacle. In fact, one of the men commented, I wish one of them had at least run for sheriff once. And it reminded me when I got out of college, I was a carpenter for a while, and we used to say something on the job sites that we were building, which was, we wish that the architects that designed the houses that we're building had actually built a house once, because they just don't understand the physics. But you know what I'm saying here? It's this idea that the intellect knows, except when the pedal hits the ground, or the foot hits the ground, or whatever the metaphor is, when we gain traction, nothing beats experience of knowing, of being in the game as simply to what you knew. The Enlightenment was this incredible experience in our human evolution. Reason, the age of reason. But yet, if you look at, and it has done good things, don't get me wrong, but there has been so much horror perpetrated in the world through reason. So it's not so much that reason is a bad thing, but it might not necessarily be the best thing when we find ourselves at a crossroads. And yesterday was my birthday. I turned 69 years old. I know. And isn't it apparent that Mars is going to be ruling me this year? But I'm at a crossroads in my life. But if I look at the world is at a crossroads, right? And if I think about our nation, it's at a crossroads. And I'm going to venture to say that just about everybody in this room is at some sort of crossroads in their life, right? Yeah. So we all know what that means. We're like the fool in the tarot, we don't know where the next step is going to take us, but we're getting ready to go. And is reason, which is simply rearranging what we already knew, the best guide for where we want to go. Manly P. Hall, in the beginning of his phenomenal book, The Secret Teachings of All Ages, says this: philosophy is the science of estimating values. Philosophy is the science of estimating values. Let me put it another way. That in all mystical traditions, first of all, philosophy is a discipline. And philosophy doesn't teach us what to think, but how to think. And it teaches us to think in relationship to proportions, because estimating values are proportions. But if we go to the mystery texts, whether we're going to the Hebrew Bible or the Bhagavad Gita or Lord of the Rings or whatever your particular sacred scripture is, it's all about estimating values, proportions. There's also a really interesting undercurrent in all of these too, which is there's themes of restoration, finding what was lost, healing what was broken, practicing good stewardship. And in all of them, there's this idea of justice. And again, justice is all about proportions. Walter Brueggemann, who's one of my favorite scholars in biblical theology, says this. He says, justice is finding out what belongs to whom and returning it. Proportions. Justice. How to think, not what to think. Crossroads. Changes. Nothing is as it was. And we're starting a new theme this year on this day called the Magical Mystery Tour. Mysticism and magic on our path. Sideline, you can't think your way to God. And here I'm sitting with this, and so as I'm thinking of this, first of all, I'm feeling woefully inadequate to tackle this subject, as big and as vast as it is. I'm thinking I haven't read enough books. I haven't done enough this, whatever the case may be. And all of this, and I am reminded of the biblical story in there's these great creation myths. In the beginning created God the heavens and the earth was without form and void, and darkness was upon the face of the deep. And the Spirit of the ever-living presence moved upon the waters, the deep, the chaos, the talum. And what the poets are saying is, creation comes from chaos. Creation comes from the unformed, the unknown, the undifferentiated, the deep, the place of the unknown. And as someone who gets up and speaks to you or someone every week, there's a part of me that is minister as performance artist. And what I know about the creative process, how it begins for me, is when I have cleaned my office for the third time, taken the dogs out for a walk, done my laundry, arranged whatever it is to do, and sit there and I can say, I don't know. I don't know. And then I breathe it in. Where am I feeling that? I don't know. And this is where the juice happens. This is where freedom begins. In fact, think of something that you're working on right now. Think of whatever it is that you're working on, whatever the case may be. Maybe it's a relationship issue. Maybe it's a finance issue. Maybe it's a crossroads of whatever that you are at. Just think about it and say, I don't know. I don't know. Do you get that? Do you feel how freeing that is? How freeing that is to simply say, I don't know. Because then we're teachable. We're curious, not judgmental. We're open. It's that Zen mind, beginner's mind kind of thing, you know. The beginner's mind is open to all possibilities, like the fool in the tarot. The zero, it's infinite possibilities. Anything is possible. As soon as we say it has to be this way, then our whole reality collapses into it has to be this way. The best and the brightest, bringing us right into the weeds. What if? What if we can start with an openness that simply says, man, I do not know where this boat's going, where it's going to lead me. Then I'm open to something else, something bigger than how I think it is. There's this story that Angel Millar tells in this book, The Warrior Mystic. And I love this guy, Angel Millar. He's a fabulous author and lecturer. He writes a lot about men's spirituality. He's a Freemason. He talks about initiations and initiation rites. But he says, he tells this story in one of his books, and it's based on a true story. Well, it is a true story. Right around the beginning of the 20th century, there was two Buddhist monks in San Francisco, and a master and his student. And the student fell in love with the city of San Francisco. And his master took him with his bags to Golden Gate Park and said, will you conquer the city, or will you let the city conquer you? And walked off, not to talk to him again. Typical Zen, right? Are you going to let the city conquer you, or are you going to conquer the city? Now, what's interesting is, as the story goes, is this particular monk became one of the seminal teachers of Zen Buddhism and one of the ones who brought the Buddhist teachings into the United States. But isn't that the crossroads that we're all at, and that our inner voice is saying to each of us, are you going to let this thing conquer you, or are you going to conquer it? But just start with I don't know. Stop using all the old tricks in your bag, because often they're the reason that got us here in the first place. Open mind, beginner's mind. In the book Meditations on the Tarot, there's this line, and I'm going to offer it to you, but I'll be honest with you, it's something that we are going to be studying all year, because when we begin to understand this, we begin to coalesce in the understanding of what it means to incorporate magic and mysticism, to lead with something else. So the book is called Meditations on the Tarot. The author is anonymous, Valentin Tomberg. But he writes this: learn at first concentration without effort. Transform work into play. Make every yoke that you have accepted easy, and every burden that you carry light. Do you feel the paradox in that? Learn concentration without effort. Make work into play. Let every yoke be easy, and every burden you carry light. Because it's not taking place in the mind. It's not mental. It's a shift in attention or consciousness or perception. It's about proportion. It's about estimating value of how we begin to work with this. And we're going to play and we're going to massage this a lot this time. So an example that I would have with this is I had breakfast with a friend of mine this week. I was up in Ojai, and we were having breakfast. And this guy is, I just love him. He's younger than myself. He's probably almost 40. He's got 2 kids, and he bought a house that was built in 1931. And my attention is going to Billy, because when I say a house that was built in 1931, what do you mean you think? A lot of projects. Nothing is level or even or anything in this house. In fact, he is spending this weekend, even as we speak, in the crawl space under his house doing something to his floor joists. So let me give you a caveat about my friend here. When he bought this house, he's a total computer nerd. This is what he's a total computer nerd. He, all things computer, he knows it. All things other than computer, not a clue. But he's doing it every weekend. He's doing it. It's like, well, what do you, he says, I just go to YouTube and I learn it. And I dig it. Make every burden light. Turn your work into play. I'm doing it because I'm creating this beautiful home for my children to play in and to be in, that's safe and wonderful and beautiful. And so when I do these things and I'm doing this thing, I'm realizing that there's something great and wonderful that I'm creating for my family. So it's play. And do I know what I'm doing? Absolutely not. But I'm doing it anyway, and I'm learning it as I go. Oh, by the way, I've saved about 60 grand so far in the endeavor. But that's part of the spiritual life. Part of this idea of restoration and healing. The path of spirituality is not out of the body, it's into the body. It's not out of the planet, it's into the planet. It's not out of our affairs, it's into our affairs. It's not even what we are as a spiritual community, It's about the inner stuff that begins to happen. Rick Warren, who had his last sermon last Sunday, I think. He just stepped down from the platform. He wrote the book on church planting. Wrote a book called Purpose Driven Church, literally the Bible on how to grow a church. And but he said something that has always stuck with me when he talked about his success. He was the founding minister, whatever he's called, of Saddleback Church up in Saddleback. Big place, 26,000 people on a Sunday, recruiting people from Disney to build their campus and all this other kind of stuff, But what he says is this. He says, think of a surfer. He said, it's a lot like being a surfer. The surfer doesn't make the wave. The surfer rides the wave. And the surfer learns to feel the ocean of when the wave is coming. It's not about making the wave. It's about being present to where the wave is and riding that wave. God makes the wave. Our job is to ride the wave, not to make the wave. It's not for us to be in control, but to be teachable, agile, open, curious. And so whatever crossroads you may find yourself in, when we are in remarkably changing times, whether that be, globally what's happening or politically what's happening or individually where we're happening, and I can assure you that where this spiritual community, where we are in all of this, it's to practice agility, openness, curiosity, This is where the magic is. This is where the mysticism is. It's to be open to this kind of thing, to ride the wave, not try to make the wave. You know, our job is not to have our physics conform to our metaphysics, but to allow our metaphysics to incorporate the physics. What's ever going on in our life is an activity of an intelligent universe that is awakening to itself. And where we are in this moment is where, through all our choices and decisions and everything that we have done has led us to this point. This is evolution in action. I could bridge it to this incredible pictures of the solar systems and the universes as they're expanding and the cooling and the fluctuations. It's all about proportions. Our lives in this moment are all about proportions that has got us here. And here is where spirit is present. Will it conquer us or will we conquer it? And how do we do it? With beginner's mind. And if we can begin to concentrate without effort, to turn work into play, to make our burdens light, to accept every yoke as easy, something changes in us. Because like that surfer, it's like horseback riding too. Years ago, I used to have horses and I used to ride, you know. And there's something that happens when you have a horse. You can't sit on an animal without there having a relationship being formed. And you can feel the animal after a while. And the animal feels you. So there's something that begins to happen. And the same thing with surfing. I remember when I was in high school, I surfed. And you can't sit out there in the ocean without beginning to have a relationship to the ocean, to feeling it. Looking at my friend Jamie back there, it's the same thing on a motorcycle on a ride, right? It's that same thing when you're doing whatever it is that you're doing. When you're in that experience, there's a feeling that you get. There's a knowing that you have. It's not from the mind, it's from the heart, it's from the body. And this is where we can hear the voice of God. Frederick Buechner says this: it seems to me then, and this seems to me still, that if God speaks to us at all in this world, if God speaks anywhere, it is into our personal lives that God speaks. Well, how in the hell does God speak? How does God speak to us? You know, first of all, it's kind of like this. This is my analogy. It's like that movie. What was that movie with what's her name? That's not helpful at all, is it? You know, the one with the thing? Let me try to make it more specific. Written by Carl Sagan. Contact, thank you very much. Contact, I knew, Russ, if anybody knew it, it would be you. Contact, yes. So there is something being broadcast, or let me make it simpler. It's like radio. The radio signal's always going, it's a constant, but we have to dial it in. It's there, but we dial it in, or we get crazy and we dial it out, you know? When I was a kid, we had, that's how old I'm 69 years old. We had a TV and we had like the coolest thing in the neighborhood. We had this antenna on top of our house because this was what you had, was antennas. And we had in our house, man, I felt like we were the Jetsons. We had this box that sat next to the TV and it had a big dial. And you turned the dial and it moved the antenna. And there was the peacock. You went too far. The peacock disappears. You had to turn it back. So it's like dialing this in. You know, the voice of God is always there. But there's 3 ways that we can begin to listen for the voice of the divine. In the book, that study that we just had, Magic Bala, they talk about this. And the first is this: look for coincidences. Look for coincidences. Things that just keep showing up again and again and again. Brain science calls this the reticular activating system. But it's this thing, you know, we see it. We see a pattern. We see a rhythm. We see it over again, you know. And we do, you know, I see certain numbers. You know, I get in my car and I turn it on and there's this number that I always see. Or I'm doing something in the kitchen and I look around in the kitchen and there it is. And it's, you kind of see it, or these coincidences where these things kind of like show up like today. Like everybody that's supposed to be here in part of producing today's event is not here. Huh, coincidental, what's up? Well, what are you talking about? Not knowing what to do. The other thing is this, messengers. We all have messengers. A couple of years ago, I took a motorcycle ride to Colorado, and I was going to be going through. I went through Utah, and I went through Colorado, and I went through Arizona, and I guess that's what I went through. I didn't have that at some point. But as I was getting ready to take this motorcycle ride, I was reading these books by this guy, Tony Hellerman, and he talks a lot about the Navajo Nation and the Hopi Nation, and they were fabulous books, and I was just kind of reading them to get into the spirit of the land. But one of the things that he talks about of the indigenous people of those things is, and this is a fun trick because you can do this right here in Fallbrook. If you see a raptor, a hawk, an eagle, a vulture, if you see a raptor, stop and reflect on what you were just thinking, because there's a message there. It's like an oracle. And it's a way of training yourself. But whenever you see a raptor, what was I just thinking? Because it's almost like a messenger that says, what are you thinking about? Are you present? Where are you at? Where are you going with that? Pause, breathe, and listen. Maybe there's something here for you. And so if we practice being aware of coincidences, and we are open to messengers, you know, when you're thinking about something and someone calls you and says, hey, I was just thinking about this, then we're open to the third level of it, which is trusting our intuition. And let me assure you this, our intuition is not always congruent with our reason. Sometimes our intuition is inviting us to do something completely unreasonable. But perhaps through these coincidences, perhaps through these messengers, perhaps through our intuition, we begin to hear the voice of God speaking personally to us. And that voice can be dialed in when we can affirm with great sincerity, I have no idea. I just simply don't know. Thank you.
Give me love, give me love, give me peace on earth. Give me life, keep me free from birth. Give me hope, help me cope with this heavy load. Trying to touch and reach you with heart and soul. Whoa, whoa. my hand, and I may understand you. Won't you please, oh, won't you give me love, give me love, give me peace on earth, give me life, keep me free from birth, give me hope, help me cope with this heavy load, trying to touch and reach you with heart and soul. Whoa, whoa. My Lord, take hold of my hand, and I may understand you. Won't you please, oh, won't you give me love, give me peace on earth, give me life, keep me free from birth, give me hope, help me cope with this heavy load, trying to touch and reach you with heart and soul. Whoa, whoa. Oh, my Lord, please take hold of my hand, and I may understand you. Won't you please, oh, won't you give me love, give me peace on earth, give me life, keep me free from birth, give me hope, help me cope with this heavy load, trying to touch and reach you with heart and soul. Whoa, whoa. Oh, my Lord, please take hold of my hand. Thank you. Yeah. Yeah, that was amazing hearing that. Yeah.
Fabulous. That's magic. Oh, didn't that feel good to sing?
Beautiful.
Oh, thank you for that. Yes. Go on for it.
Oh, no, I was just going to say the same thing because other than the musicians that we've had, we used to sing a lot here. And it has a certain power to it when we do something together collectively other than just maybe breathing.
But when we sing, we breathe together. And when we breathe together, we come into alignment together. That's why churches sing.
Yeah.
Yeah, it brings us all, unites us.
And I have to wipe the tear from my eye from it because I didn't really think I would have that kind of a reaction to it, but it was very, very powerful. So thank you, Paul. Thank you.
Yeah.
So this is our opportunity for conscious giving, and this is an important part for me in the process of being a practitioner, being a member of this community, of being able to give back and support the community in whatever is unfolding here, and making sure that this place is here for each of us, and that we can join together on Sundays and the other functions that we have here, and that I'm just grateful for being able to do that, and how meaningful it is. And I just, if you guys have chosen to give, just hold your gift to your heart and just know that you're saying yes to the idea of the Hilltop Center and all that we stand for and all that we hope to bring into the world, and that It does good, and it is all good, and so it is.
So a couple announcements coming down the pike here. The first is Tim Braun is coming in October, and tickets are on sale for that. If you've not been to an evening with him, it's pretty remarkable. So very good, very good, very, very good. The other thing is there is a class that's coming up taught by our practitioners Sherry and Andrea, and it's on spiritual economics. Fabulous material. It's based on the work of Eric Butterworth, and that's pretty amazing stuff. So that's going to be happening. What else is going on? Open Mind. The gift shop is open, and it's got all kinds of cool things in it. Prayer circle. Kurt's going to do a prayer circle about 5 minutes after service. And there's also prayer requests back there. And also you can talk to one of the practitioners. If you're a practitioner, raise your hand. Terry just left, but she wanted me to know that, or wanted you guys to know, she told me this before, is that she goes into the kitchen to start getting things ready. So you can go help her in the kitchen and ask for prayer, and she'll do that while she's moving the coffee cups and anything else that's going on. I am so grateful for today because 30 seconds before service happened, I did not know anything that was going to be going on. And Steve stepped up fabulously and beautifully and magically, so thank you, as did Paul and did Kurt and all of you. So thank you all for being here, and thank you guys for all helping out here. And anything else need to be said before we close out? I am going to pray. Yes, Larry. We have not yet, because I'm looking at my schedule. I'm doing some traveling, and some things are starting to happen. But it'll happen. Also, I'm going to be teaching a class, and I'm working on this new technology with my nerd friend David on how we can do a seamless live class that also allows people to tune into Zoom. So that's up. Yeah, I'm very excited about that too. So, yes, Chris. Marilyn Halder's birthday's tomorrow? Oh my goodness gracious. Wow. Happy birthday. Huh? I got your card. Thank you very much. I did get your card. Yeah. Any other birthdays coming down soon? Anybody else having a birthday? Nope. Good. Well, not good that you're not having birthdays, but good that we're complete. So let's pray. So opening up to that divine presence, we open with a beginner's mind, with curiosity, not judgment. Our prayer is not so much that we change God, but that we allow that divine presence to change us. May we be opened and filled with grace. May this day unfold in a way that brings us amazement and wonder and joy. May we become aware of the coincidences that begin to happen. May we watch for messengers that are speaking. And may we honor our intuition, all for the good of ourselves and all for the good of each other. And so it is.
So it is.
Loca samasta sukino bantu Loca samasta sukino bantu and we shine like diamonds in the sun. Every one of us shine. We shine like diamonds in the sun. Every one of us. May all beings be happy and free. May all beings be happy and free. Oh God, semesta sugino bantu laka semesta sugino bantu. May all beings be happy and free. May all beings be happy and free. Happy Sunday.